Hello, welcome to my Sunday Frump. Thank you for joining me today. Today I just have a read, and I'm kind of hesitant to share this with you, but it needs to be done, and it needs to be done right away, and it needs to be pushed out. So I'm gonna make sure to upload this before noon, and it'll be your morning updates and news briefings. Hope you guys watch to the end, and again, thank you for joining me today. Currently, there are two storms brewing in the seas, one closest to land, hovering near Central America. There's a percentile, a storm that popped up near Africa will develop into a tropical depression as it nears our waters at the Caribbean around Thursday. So later this week, we are seeing that there is a storm that popped up near Africa headed towards the Caribbean. Those islands over there, like near Puerto Rico, etc. It's supposed to be a tropical depression as it progresses forth. So there is another one near Central America storm there that's currently situated and hovering over those lands, and it's just kind of brewing into a bigger storm. And then this is going to affect the current status in which on-off precipitation force more evacuations all around Florida. So if you have been watching the updates as far as just Florida is concerned, in response to Hurricane Milton, there has been evacuations. You guys, if you're watching, if you are in a situation, call. Don't even bother to wait. If you're in a situation that you feel stuck, call the emergency service and they will get you. Make sure you tell them your location. But this storm that is coming to the islands will affect like the moisture in the area. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that this is going to develop before this weekend. The pace has picked up in the heavily politicized by Biden admin relief efforts underway in affected areas destroyed by Hurricane Helene and Milton. These back-to-back storms taking the lives of 280 civilians, ballpark estimate, many still missing, about 220. In case you missed it, Milton's death toll is currently at 27. Both storms costing the U.S. $70 billion in damages. Hurricane Milton alone, by the way, costs $30 billion in damages. So like I said, this relief efforts is underway, although the Biden admin has taken to politicizing the events affecting the relief. So although there are many destroyed civilian lives, there needs to be a lot of pickup and backing and support at the White House levels. And I feel like they neglected and abandoned their position and leadership there. As efforts amp up, some parts that continue rising in floods, like I said, are evacuating. This making it more difficult to get a real-time assessment at not only state, federal levels of government, but also residential. Missing and deceased still may also rise as they work through this crisis. So as you know, a lot of places are destroyed. A lot of places are hard to reach. A lot of victims still have yet to be accounted for. But in saying so, at least I've seen in Florida, as far as their situation is concerned with the floods, they are extremely hard to reach. And in order to get a full assessment of the entire whole picture of the damage on any level, it's really, really, it's like almost hopeless because the residents, still haven't even been reached. A lot of them that are being evacuated, they're just now reaching them and having to evacuate them still. So it's like, in order to get all those numbers, in order to get a good estimate, or just to wrap your mind around the impact, it's nearly impossible, once you hit the levels of residential neighborhoods and zones. If you can't get it, if you can't get it as a total, then, I guess you're just, taking a shot in the dark, guesstimating, as I call it. In saying that, Saturday, FEMA faced a heightened threat to safety, pausing their efforts in North Carolina, which will continue after investigation near their end. A man armed with both rifle and handgun was intercepted by National Guardsmen. He planned, along with a militia group, to attack the agency that day. FEMA immediately removed their workers from endangerment. So I'm going to stop right there. Now, Saturday, the National Guards caught in the middle of an ambush a militia group headed by a man. He was caught red-handed with a rifle and a handgun. So they all had planned to attack FEMA, the agents on the ground. They were conducting interview and assessment at the residence of the victims, and luckily the National Guardsmen stopped them. So like I said, that happened in North Carolina on Saturday. And the same Saturday, a third assassination attempt was foiled in California. The sheriff, pointing at wokeness in a defensive, neutral tone to the incident, he took to media in a presser yesterday morning. This and the other incident over the weekend had zero to very poor coverage, as Kamala Harris, your VP, took over the news and headlines on her campaigns, which take the slogan in a verbal attack against former President Donald J. Trump: "We are not going back." A racially incited undertone, yet tone-deaf rhetoric in which constantly being asked to tone down. Yet she fails at every corner. Now, this is a very, very, very important topic, a very sensitive topic to Americans. This is a very, very, I'd say, unfortunate occurrence that is constantly, being kind of shrouded in, just wokeness, pointing and blaming, and I feel like there needs to be much more done at all levels of concernment. Now, again, to hash over what actually transpired on Saturday, in California, a man armed with a rifle and a handgun attempted the assassination on our former President Donald Trump. This again happened in California, this being the third attempt to his life. He was intercepted in the middle of the attack at a rally. I believe this was in Coachella. The sheriff had a press release in the morning in which he claimed woke liberals to be the blame for lack of securing our presidential candidate. And, you know, I think he was a little bit tone deaf to the actual violence that occurred, because that is not going to resolve the issue of securing a presidential nominee or what have you. I think that because both had very little coverage to zero coverage in the media, that Kamala Harris, her campaign kind of towered over, hovered over the violence that occurred over the weekend. And for some reason, these things that actually occurred that affect the daily lives of the voters were hushed. And especially in the media. I don't understand why the press didn't continue covering business as usual. That is their one job. Now, again, her campaigns took over all the headlines. You knew she was out there because they highly covered that. Her slogan is a verbal assault against Donald Trump, saying we are not going back. Racially tone deaf. I say that because this is an answer to go back to Africa. Something that I heard in my entire youth, that I continue hearing back and forth in America and abroad. I'm not going to say I don't hear racist slurs and slogans and jargon whenever I'm not in America, because we hear it all the time. But to use that slogan as a verbal attack against Donald Trump when asked to tone down the rhetoric, she constantly uses it still, and is obviously not backing down, because the entire weekend when she was rallying, she used it. So that's her sentiment. Both gunners planned their attacks both on Saturday. They both were armed with a rifle and a handgun, and both in their 40s. They were both stopped mid-attack, arrested, and they were also both released. If this isn't disturbing news, I don't know what is. So, both of the gunmen, they plan their attacks. Okay. And they plan their attacks knowing that they have a bunch of people around them. And one, even with his group, not to say that there wasn't more involved with the assassination attempt, because obviously he had been taking to social media and taking to his entire network with his anti-government sentiment. Both of them take to their networks where they're safe in their groups with anti-government sentiment. Again, they were released after arrested and questioned. They were released, because they made bail. Simply put. They both have similar characteristics in which they had the same type of weaponry. They were around the same age, and they were both somehow intercepted in the middle of this violence. Luckily for us and the victims, Jacob Parsons, the North Carolina FEMA attacker, is head of a heavily armed militia with government intelligence. So they are very, very much aware of what intels government action, and they kind of curbed every security, aspect into which they were able to have nearly cornered these agents that were on the ground, boots on the ground, responding, at these victims' homes. So the third presidential candidate assassin, Van Van Miller Yanovikian, he is known as Van Miller, a famous producer journalist who had a child custody battle in England, filmed his own children's abuse, allegedly, for content on his social media accounts, ending up being restricted of contact with his own biological children. He produces 2 shows, one called America Happens, in which he shamelessly plugged during his questioning and while still in police custody. Quote, "The pen is always mightier than the sword, which is what I live by." And I'm going to go over that again. The third presidential candidate would be assassin. His name is, he goes by Van Miller. His whole name is Van Miller Yanovikian. 2 years, name change due to his ongoing custody battle, which is out of London, England. He exploited his children on his own social media and online in docu-series regarding the health and safety of his biological children, in which they were awarded to his baby's mama, and restricted, the courts restricting his contact with them, which he tried to continue and attempted in an attempt to fly over there and, conduct his misbehavior and, volatile parental behaviors towards his own family. So he is, like I said, a producer journalist. He's kind of famous, so it's not like people don't know him. He actually, by which his statement was actually a plug to his show that he's currently working on. This is called America Happens, and it's a continued series. And again, he's stating about writing. Writing is more action than taking physical action. Something that he is known to produce is what he's saying. So that's why I say it's a plug, because he's putting into, into a phrase, a catchphrase. He's instilling the fact that he produces a show that he wrote on his own that kind of sums up his sentiment. He doesn't deny he has a sentiment that is anti. He's actually kind of brushing off the charges, and instead plugging the show that he is currently producing as a series. His most alarming anti-protest, coincidentally, was during COVID crisis, the coronavirus pandemic, a very sensitive time in which we lost a lot of Americans to this deadly virus. So the one thing that people remember him by of late would be the COVID protest that he, encouraged people to, kind of jump on board with. and on the bandwagon against, awareness at government levels. And again, this is a very sensitive era of U.S. history, even. We lost so many people that we were blindsided, not just by the amount, but of how real this disease could just spread, so widely and impact our lives so drastically. So I wanted to note that we lost a firefighter in the battle to protect the presidential candidate. Two other people who took bullets continue enduring the consequences of the highly politically violent climate, suffering physical impairments, losing ability to drive and walk without aids due to the bodily injury inflicted by these henchmen. Now, I call them henchmen because they were never, actually, this whole sentiment was never actually battled to cessation. You'd need everybody, every level of protection and government on board in order to do so. And rightfully, a first responder loss to this community, would be, it would be significant to any community. So then I would also like to point out that there are interviews online that I did see. There was two people who were injured during the attack on our former president as well. And so they were just civilians, and their lives completely changed because now one saying he's not able to drive it around himself anymore, and the other is not able to just walk. He is using an aid to walk now, and they are suffering illness because this physical, how do you call it? It's a, it's an ongoing physical, situation in which they are disabled now. So the bail proving neglect toward the American people, health and safety of the public, in which the sheriff only asked for sympathy in his speech regarding the incident, is only official statement. Like I said before, how dare you allow them bail? How dare you let them free them and let them roam this earth? Considering the crime, the gravity of the crime should be, in their minds as they sit in jail, as they sit in prison, to which, me here in Studio C, MDF says, at least, because how dare they? And use the system against the civilians? We're the ones who, who pay the taxes, do the right thing, and stand by each other, And the sheriff was so, he was so forgiving. His only, I think, negative sentiment was directed towards the people. He considered wokeness a topic to take to battle. Now, that's like a fable, myth, legend type thing in the first place. And he's like trying to gaslight everybody, like he needs sympathy for something that happened to our former president. I thought that was ridiculous because this was his official and only statement in which he only took to the press because obviously, the weekend passed and everybody's asking questions now because nobody said a word about it at all. Now, also over the weekend, people took to poking fun at the mockery in which Tim Walz attempted to show relatability posing as a hunter, fumbling with a loaded shotgun of all things, risking it all seemingly for the gram, jeopardizing life and limb. My official take: do not try this at home. Do not try this at home. It is not worth it. It's never worth going viral. They called him Elmer Fudd, which is cute, but ew, not him. Ick, major ick. Absolutely not cute. Playing with guns. And by the way, so to recap, I was going to say Elmer Fudd. Tim Walz had a kind of like a hunter's, expedition on the weekend. And it was just like a camera up, like an opportunity to have some video clips go viral. But he, in fact, had a shotgun in which he did not know how to use and was fumbling with this loaded weapon, in which case I am asking the public to do not try that at home. Do not play with guns. This is very serious. We have a gun safety initiative in America. So take heed, take warning, and take that serious. As seriously as you can take anything on my channel. A week in, Kamala Harris, his running mate, her presidential, self-appointed candidate, I've seen Buffer Doctor highly edited interview. She unleashed hell on earth towards, on the phone towards governor of 2 times in 2 weeks, major hurricane hit Florida, Ron DeSantis, which he disavowed her during a presser, deeming her an antagonist in the rush relief efforts by her harassing phone tag games. Okay, I'm going to stop right there so we can get, the head on this one. Recap, or just cap this off. Elmer Fudd, Tim Walz's running mate, Kamala Harris, the self-appointed candidate of the presidential elections. So she had a bunch of interviews that were highly buffered and edited. Like, they were really, really doctored interviewed. And, like, things were kind of, like, clipped and rearranged and kind of, things were kind of, cleaned up. They were kind of cleaned up for her in these interviews. And then, of course, DeSantis also he claims that she had been trying over and over with these harassing phone calls to him to, antagonize him. And he took to the press to acknowledge these incidents in the public face, and also to, discount, any claims that he was entertaining these types of incidents or back and forth phone tag games. So Biden backing the official statement of the state of Florida's Hurricane Milton briefing, stating he is doing a great job, adding her phone calls unnecessary. So when they did press Biden a little bit, I saw like 2 times when they asked him directly, he did say, basically that she was being kind of unnecessary and kind of a bugaboo. That he 100% backed DeSantis that he 100% believes that DeSantis could finish the job himself. So the racial tensions she caused this week after constantly promoting speeches targeting the Black community, pointing directly at Black men with disparaging slander, claiming they failed to be present at the polls and have an uneducated voting. Now, where have we heard that before in America? This prejudice, this, it's like you just have all these bias against not just the Black community, but Black men that we have heard time and time again around the world, but in our home country of America, might I remind you of the history of the Black vote, Ms. Kamala Harris. So she keeps promoting these speeches. For some reason, she keeps having these famous men talking down, not just pointing at the Black community, but pointing at directly at the male population of our community, and using words of disparage and slander. Uneducated voters? Who would think that would be morally acceptable as a presidential candidate in 2024, much less discouraging them by saying, well, we don't really see you at the ballots and polls. You're not that visible. Wow. Mind you, this is half the race of the entire world, much as the universe, that you deemed too small to be visible. Shame. She famously scapegoated and successfully our famous President Trump, or our former President Trump, using him as an emotional punching bag. Should she be asked a hard question, throwing him in front of her as a metaphoric human shield, and speaking of slandering men. So she, during interviews, constantly scapegoats our former President Trump, and is known for slandering men. And I know that because I became immediately aware when she took to actually dismissing J.D. Vance as a red pill woke man. And I was just like taken aback. Like, what did I do? What have I done to her? Like, she's at all levels of fight with my demographics alone. And I'm here as a Red Pill channel, my Son de From, to help the community, to help the plight of men. And, and to use what I do, the philosophy, as a slur. Madam Vice President, how dare you? But most importantly, the plight of men as a weaponized, arsenal to take to the top, of the election, the votes, the ballots, the polls. Of course, leverage yourself off the backs of this little guy. That's just how I see her. Her recent tactics are now live and viral at the moment. She continues hosting famous iconic men to do the dirty work. Most recently, she had Bill Clinton, or also former president, giving speech, which is usually a welcome thing, especially him being out of the spotlight for a while and seeing him so lively, alive, and well. So, like I said, she uses famous men, iconic men. She gets all of our idols and puts them on a platform to, to give us you know, these speeches in which at the end of the day, they're actually discouraging, you know? And we believe so much in, you know, our role models, you know, even growing up when we see these men. And then our former president, Bill Clinton, when he was on the stage, you know, and now, you know, nobody really barely even mentioned him because they didn't really, you know, there wasn't really that much of interest after all that. After all that she caused, you know, kind of discouragement, I guess. Given the current atmosphere, this is not even seen as a big deal. Diminishing the American spirit caused a shift toward neutrality amongst not only voters, but people. The small handful, I'm guessing, that love watching the news. So, you know, and I saw that a lot. Like, people were not interested, so they didn't really give that much coverage or cover that he was at a speech. And, you know, I saw probably 2 clips of him, and it was like, wow, that's our former president, Bill Clinton. That's all y'all got? Like, and then I thought about it, and I said, well, it had to be that she attacked the spirit of the American people. And, you know, and I think that they just didn't want to hear any speeches anymore. And I think that the people that watch the news were kind of like turned off by the news and just kind of shut the TV off. And, you know, so anything else other than that she campaigned all weekend long wasn't heard really much of. This is literally having this desired Kamala effect of divestment, because during anti-government shenanigans, she rallied campaigned and muted said ambush premeditated attack, as if no threat took place over the weekend, muting the media outlets all around and the allowing for bail. Now, as you know, she was too busy campaigning and rallying that she neglected the, you know, how she always threatens people with prosecution because her expertise is allegedly in prosecution. It sounds more like a P something else to me. But to release them on bail, like, did you like overlook that happened yourself? Because you sure hushed all the media outlets to hip the American public to the knowledge that our national security threat, as far as the situation of the former president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, you know, was put to task. I mean, a 3rd assassination attempt is a huge deal, if not a bigger deal than we can put in words. So, and I say that at a national level. I'm talking about world leaders. If you want to dumb down the fact who Donald J. Trump is around the world, that's all on you, baby. But the anti-government shenanigans, in fact, did take place, and they were muted and kind of taken backseat to her headlines of campaigns and rallies and spectacular, which I think is ridiculous. We need to know what's going on in the world. We need some real news. If that doesn't bring shame, she released some medical records pressuring our former president into a doxing that she flaunted all week long. So before all these campaigns, she released her own medical records and continued mocking and teasing our former president Trump into doxing himself. So this is her doxing campaign that took place before her weekend of rallies, that she is so proud of herself for inciting and starting and continuing. This is actually a bullying thing, cyberbullying even, you could say. This is an initiative in America, and we do not tolerate that. So just so you guys know that there are things done and in place that, that deem that a threat, to our lives, our livelihoods. This is not something that we can just, laugh and just brush off easily. You can't just giggle this one off and just think that's enough, attention to these situations. I think every single thing in which you're, promoting should be, taken seriously, especially if it's not a morally, up to par thing, and you're a leader or as at a presidential level, on the ballot. We should all, look and see something better in the character and moral integrity at the presidential level than we have been. Doing nothing but blaming FEMA's female admin for lack of response, she claimed the relief efforts were highly politicized, cornering our POTUS, to use the same phrase, in support of her leverage off the backs of those still suffering. As we know, the victims are still suffering in their destroyed communities. She uses the phrase highly politicized when talking disaster response and relief. She not only attacked DeSantis, but went after FEMA's admin. And FEMA's admin's a girl. She's very smart and very responsible. You can see her in a bunch of pressers because she's boots on the ground all around, and present, and then she took Joe Biden aside and pushed that he continue this narrative that, not just DeSantis, not just FEMA, but the all around sentiment of response was highly politicized. So he's echoing the same rhetoric, being pressured into it, like, peer pressure or something, the White House. And this all comes out after light was shined on her $300 million in U.S. currency given to Hezbollah's Lebanon government by way of UN being ambushed and cornered, in case you missed it. And this is one of the things that I didn't really like to talk about, but I really need you guys to hear me if you watch this channel for news about the Palestine-Gaza situation. So Kamala Harris pledged and donated $300 million to Lebanon. And as you know, Hezbollah had some of the offices in Lebanon. Now, the UN, as you know, is stationed around the world in conflict and what have you. They're there to meet the needs of the people as a whole, to keep the peace around the world, to aid in humanitarian efforts. But after she gave them $300 million to beef up and boost their arsenals in Lebanon, they were ambushed and attacked. The UN. And I'll go on. This jeopardized humanitarian efforts and peacekeeping in regions throughout the desert. Hezbollah, Lebanon, and Israel, extremely embarrassed, apologized, and drew back significantly. All the while, an arsenal was sent into the desert conflict by said Biden admin with a shipment of high-tech Iron Dome 2.0 promised to arrive by today for Israel. So they said for Israel, they will continue arming them, continue shipping arsenal into the desert conflict. And they have made do with most of their promises. And today, probably the Iron Dome 2.0 will arrive. And I'm just, calling it that because it's a high-tech anti-missile program. It's a system in which it protects the area, the network that it's installed in from missiles and rockets and drones and but when the UN took to press and took to emergency meetings and had meets with global leaders, like I said, Hezbollah, Lebanon as a whole, and Israel, they all, IDF, they all pulled back. They were so humiliated that this had taken place, that they had overlooked the UN, and they continuously apologize, But this is bringing distrust, and it's bringing, a big setback in peace talks and kind of interrupting day-to-day humanitarian aid, and support in the region, in which we know is started in some parts that haven't been affected, and in other parts is dire. It's critical to human life. But like I said, right now, as we speak, the shipment of the anti-missile system is being shipped to Israel. Somehow, some way, they're going to get, another, system. So now Bret Baier is set to interview warmonger Kamala Harris, your VP, Wednesday. He is excited with a list of questions and even invites the input of ex-users to post theirs on his account, claiming he might use them. He works for Fox News. So Bret Baier on Wednesday will interview Kamala Harris. Twitter, which now is called X, formerly Twitter, he invited people who are online to post their questions, kind of like, if he likes them, if he sees them and reads them, he might use them and ask her. So, like I said, Bret Baier, Fox News, he works for Fox News. It will be, I believe, on Fox News. This airs Wednesday, his interview with Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. Although FEMA guardsmen and a whole network of organizers in a teamwork effort are doing a great job right now, and things are really drastically looking up. Keep all victims and their close circles in your thoughts and prayers. Thank all of you for your great support of this channel, the fallen, the survivors, and our team of responders who tirelessly have the project they no doubt will conquer. I wanted to take some time. At the end of the show, I wanted to take this time to highlight all the people who, our team response. Like, you guys have really, really improved in, I guess, the pace of this response. I think all my supporters and my followers who did show up for volunteer, y'all continue doing your thing. I think and believe in you to accomplish all the things you set your mind on, all your goals, and all, you know, the efforts to which you responded to, the entire team, you will succeed. You will conquer this. I think that your end goal should be a W, because you will certainly get it. Like my channel, you know, we're all winners here. We're all winners, and I support and back you guys 100% from where I'm sitting and what I can do here behind this camera. Thank you for everything. This means a lot more to me than you guys know. Continue with your efforts, because you are making such a huge difference right now. You really are. And, you know, that's something that we like to see happen. That's something that is not just needed, but, you know, it's kind of the American way right now that we can see in real time. Locally, weather is cool and some chance for rain today here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Studio C is looking at sunny week despite today's rain clouds. So thank you for joining me. I am here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's a little bit cloudy, but we'll get through this day, because this week ahead, the rest of the week, for the time being, it's all full of sunshine. So we'll just be seeing clouds for a little bit, and after that, it looks sunny. It looks really good out. And thank you guys for spending some time with me. I'll see you guys again on the next one. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. My son de Frump. Bye-bye.